Okay, we open the tower box, and there we have it. There's the tower. About to open it up and put the stuff in. Okay, after taking a couple of screws out, now we just release the latch. And voila, there we go. Okay, so now we have the tower and we have all our accessories. First thing that we'll probably be installing will be the power supply. No, I don't have to open it. You don't have to open it. It's a 750 watts gold power supply. The motherboard is a Asus Z178R 5-way. Next, we have the memory for it. The Vengeance Performance Corsair memory. It's 2 bars of 8 gigabytes. Core of i7 unlocked. It's 6700. 6700K i7, and that's with the LGA 1151 chipset. Hyper 212 Evo, and that's our cooler, Coolmaster cooler for the processor. What is it? The Samsung SSD 850 EVO, like that. Yeah. So, all right. So that's our, what is it? 256. No, 250. 250 gigabyte SSD card. That's a terabyte. I think we have a 2 terabyte. We'll probably put in a 2 terabyte graphics card. Next, a Radeon R290 XFX brand graphic card. And next, we have the Thunderbolt EX2 Asus. Not 32. A copy of Not 32 and a copy of Windows 10. So, see how that goes. Before we install the power supply, it has all the connections for all the cables right here. So VGA 2, SATA 1, SATA 2, whatever SATA. So we'll connect the cables that we have, throw them in there, and then we'll put it in. With the cables, it'll be easier to read from here rather than inside. We'll see. Okay, so now we got all the cables, the VGA cables, SATA cables, the big power cable for the computer, and all that good stuff. So we'll tie the ones that we don't need and install the rest. Lined up? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's put the screws on. Right. Okay, so getting our 4 screws tightened up for our power supply. Okay, so now we got the power supply and all the cables and everything, and now the screws came with the tower, and it has a standoffs for the motherboard, a couple of screws for the power supply, but okay, so now we're gonna get you got it? Okay, we'll get the motherboard. Strap motherboard. Damage the board. Ready to slip it right in. Awesome. Okay, we'll just screw those in, and we'll be okay. So now we've installed the 8 screws and set it in place. So our motherboard's installed, and our power supply as well. So we're all set. There's our connectors and everything. So that's ready to go. So now we're ready to install the CPU and memory and all the other stuff as we go. Okay, so we finished putting in the cooler. We got the processor, the cooler in there. Now we got to get memory in there and get our connections, SSD and hard drive, and then we should be okay. So now we installed our memory, Vengeance, and there's our 2 right there. We remove the fan to make sure we can install that. Looked at the manual, and it looks like the memory, I had it on slot 1 and slot 2, but it actually goes on the 2nd slot and the 4th slot. So very important to get that right. After the memory, now we have to get the SSD drive and a hard drive. So we'll be looking to put that in there next. Okay, so here's the SATA, or I mean the what do they call that? SSD drive. We turn it around. Okay, so there's our 2 terabyte hard drive. We just mounted it onto the little cage there, and 4 screws. Now we're gonna throw it in there just above our SATA drive, SSD drive that is. You can use both hands. Okay, so now we're gonna install our graphics card. It's a 290 graphics card, XFX graphics card. So we'll throw that in there, and then our Thunderbolt. We're pretty much done, other than 2 cards that we need to install. We're gonna test it first, and then install the cards afterwards. We have our connection to our SSD drive. We left the hard drive unconnected so we can load Windows onto the SSD. We have a connection to the DVD. That's which we're going to put our Windows operating system. And now we have everything connected other than our graphics cards. We have a connection to the DVD player. That's where Windows is going to load from. We didn't load the or connect the hard drive, the main hard drive. We have the connection to the SSD. That's where we're going to load Windows. We'll go into BIOS and check that out first, and then load Windows. All right. After powering this thing up and loading Windows, now it's stuck. It won't. I try to log on to the internet, and it's just there. It is blinking amber and red light below, orange below, I guess. So it won't go. So now I installed the Asus motherboard disk that came with the motherboard, and now I get all this, and apparently I can install a bunch of stuff other than Norton Security. I'll be updating all the Microsoft Net Framework, Intel chipset, Realtek audio, Intel 3.0, USB 3.0, and all the rest of it. So after that, then I'll check and see what happens.